Hey y'all, I was just tinkering with a project today and I thought this was a good opportunity to follow up on my video about feedback loops in the DAW. So I'm just sort of hitting record on things and hopefully this video will come together in the edit. I'm working on a project with Will Klingenmeyer, who is sending me analog beats that he's made on his DFAM, the Moog Drummer from Another Mother, DFAM, and then I've been working on them in digital and analog on my end. Anyway, this is one of the beats he sent, and the usual disclaimer here, I'm working in Logic today, but I'm not using anything specialized to Logic. What I'm doing here can be done in any DAW you're working in Pro Tools, in Reaper, in Ableton, in FL Studio, I assume. I've never opened it up, but you'll probably use different plugins than I do. Here's the beat itself. So a sort of noisy analog lo-fi thing. And he also sent me this drone. And so then together. So on the drone track, there's just a basic compressor here. And you'll notice that I actually have this side chain to audio 1. I should be better at about naming things, but I'm just sort of starting out on this. So again, the compression here is triggered by the drum track, not by the drone track. So if you listen carefully, you can sort of hear the drone amplitude going down when there are loud moments from the drums. We'll listen together. If I bypass that, sidechain compression in. This is an old trick that you do in like French house and things like that. If you want that pumping feeling, you sidechain things with a kick, etc. Now, what I wanted to show though was the next step of this is I have this send bus 2, which is a reverb here. Where is that? That's this thing too, right? So it receives on bus 2, and then it goes through this chain of things. But the important thing at the end here is that this bus 2 sends back to itself, right? So it's a feedback loop. Receives on bus 2, these the beat and the drone are sending on bus 2, and it sends on bus 2 back to itself. By the way, notice I've filtered the heck out of that. And then, you know, I've got a little bit of a delay. I have Valhalla Vintage Verb, again, a reverb unit on there. And then I have this also going to that same sidechain compression of the drums, again, audio 1 being that. Now, so let me turn off that sidechain compression for a second. I'm going to unmute this. I'm going to be careful. Don't worry, in the video, I'll make sure it doesn't blow out your ears, but it's going to feed back. Okay, so it blows up into clipping. Now, what's interesting, if I turn on this sidechain compression, that means the amplitude of this feedback loop is being reduced by that drum sound too, right? So when the drums push beyond the threshold of this compressor, right? Again, the sidechain being the drum track, then it reduces the amplitude of that. And that affects the amplitude of the feedback loop, right? So the drums, in a way, are preventing this from feeding back. So I'm going to unmute that again. Let me start the track first. Here's without the feedback loop. I'm going to put it in. So you can hear how in the quieter moments of the drums, the feedback starts to push through. That's because in the quieter moments of the drums, there's less amplitude reduction of the feedback track. Now, if I stop this, it just blows up, and that makes us unhappy. So you'll notice I even, in the track window too, I put an easy place for me to mute that. To me, this sound is kind of akin to a group EmptySet, who do this kind of feedback in analog in a number of really interesting ways, including from satellites, I think. I'll link the video of the talk there, but really interesting stuff. Just to show another one, here's the same kind of idea. I split the drum beat into two, I isolated the lower frequencies and then I have the higher frequencies there, just so I could play with them separately. I have two sends here. I have three sends. I have early reflections. I'm going to talk about that in another video, so we'll talk about that later. But I have bus 2 is a delay, and bus 3 is a reverb. I'm calling it smoosh verb. I think, it's not that long. It's a relatively short, again, Valhalla vintage verb. I'm not sponsored by them, but it's a great $50 reverb plugin. I think it's amazing value for money. And again, EQ, the reverb, and here's that sidechain compression, this time sidechained to audio 2, which is our low frequencies here, so the low frequency information. This aux track smoosh verb sends into bus 2, which is basically a delay. This gain here inverts the phase and swaps left and right just for fun. And this also has that same sidechain compression too. And this gets sent to 3, which gets sent to 2, which gets sent to 3, which gets sent to 2, etc. Notice I'm using reverb and, first notice I'm EQing, which is important, but then also notice I'm using reverb and delay, which are time-based effects, and to me, especially when we're working in digital, these are the most effective ways to do feedback loops. When you're working in analog, there's more room to move away from time-based stuff, but really when you're working in digital, I've found that some delay in there is really helpful. So let's listen to this. And again, we can hear that feedback in the background being pounded down by the low frequency side chains here. Now this moment there's not as much low, so it's not pushing it down as much and we're getting more feedback. Oh, is it gonna go out of control? Ah! And then there the low stuff comes back. And now that's just a compositional timing thing, but we can see that low frequency stuff comes back and starts pushing it down again. And I better mute that or else. Anyway, neat if you're into that EmptySet-like feedback sound. Again, I strongly recommend you check out EmptySet's music if you haven't. There's a ton of stuff up on Bandcamp, and I will absolutely, whether it's retroactively or not, I will absolutely post a link to however Will and I decide to release this project. All right, that's all I got for today. Let me know what you come up with.